Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I know I had said that I was not going to be doing any more updates because it was still too early post Exosomes to do updates, but I did say that I would check in if there was anything weird or unusual happening. And so this was something that has just recently happened that I thought would be maybe useful, particularly for any women out there who are considering doing stem cells or exosomes, because this is kind of the first more unusual thing that has happened, something that kind of hasn't happened before. And as you can see in the title of the video, it does have to do with menstrual cycles. So if this is something that you're not interested in or that kind of grosses you out, you might want to skip this video. It's not going to be anything gross or explicit. It's just something that I found a bit unusual for me that I thought was worth a mention. So I am about 3 weeks post exosomes. I am back on my IVIG. If you don't know what my IVIG is, watch the rest of my exosomes videos. I talk about IVIG, which is a medication that I'm on. So I've started back on my IVIG about a week ago. I did double up the dose. I usually do about 5 grams per week, but since I have a bunch of bottles left because I had stopped doing it for almost a month and a half, I'm now doing 10 grams per week. So that's another thing to sort of take into consideration. Although I don't think that's the reason why I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. So this is my first cycle post exosomes. So like I said, I'm about 3 weeks post exosomes. My cycle started about 2 weeks post exosomes. And I've had a headache for about 5 days, which is really unsettling and unusual for me. It's not unusual for me to have a headache during my cycle. I typically don't get headaches during my cycle, but it has been, I think, more of a recent occurrence. And typically I'll take Advil. I take a lot of Advil during my cycles just for cramps and any other kind of discomfort. And that will usually help whatever headache I have. This time it was just, kind of like a moderate or a mild headache for a few days until Saturday when it wasn't like, a migraine, but it was just this very persistent, kind of moderate, just ongoing, unchanging headache. And I was just tired of it. On top of that, I was having some vaginal discomfort. So I suspected I probably had another infection, which has been a recurrent situation for probably going on a year now. And this is hormonally related. It's not anything like I'm not doing anything that is causing these infections. It's just hormonal. And of course, being chronically ill can also make you just more vulnerable to infection in general. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to go to urgent care and kill two birds with one stone. I'll talk to her about the infection and then just mention the headache and see if there's anything. I know that there's nothing that can be done as far as medication because Advil is basically the only thing that I can take. And if that doesn't do it, there's really nothing else that's going to help it. So, and I'm still dealing with the headache, by the way. It's not as bad as it was on Saturday, but I'm still dealing with, I guess, some remnants of it. So I went to urgent care and she did an examination and she actually told me, she said, I don't think you have an infection. She said, I think you're dealing with irritation related to hormones, which I did not know was a thing, but it has happened to me before where I will feel very irritated. I'll feel burning. I'll feel irritation around the skin, which is something that I addressed in one of my other videos, but I will not have any kind of infection. That might just be a new symptom that I'm developing because I was dealing with that a few weeks ago as well. As for the headache, she checked, she examined my nose, my ears. She said, you don't have any kind of congestion. I'm guessing by the way that I described the headache, she thought that it may be a sinus type of situation, which I will come back to in a little bit. She said, everything looks good. She said, it is probably just hormonal, everything. The irritation, the headache, it is probably just a hormonal thing, and you're just going to have to wait until it passes and kind of you'll go back to your baseline. Um, like I said, it's not unusual to have a headache, but to have an ongoing headache for so many days was concerning. On top of the fact that, I had other symptoms. I've also been experiencing an increase in like skin sensitivity, which it might be a new sensitivity to a face wash that I have. So I've stopped using that face wash and I seem to feel better. That's still not good. It's still not a good thing that I'm developing new sensitivities, because that means that I'm actually getting worse, not getting better. So and skin sensitivity on my face. I'm having skin sensitivity in other parts of my body, but I'm also having it on my face. So like I said, that's, kind of it's not a new symptom, but it seems like it's becoming a worsening symptom. And I had sort of a recurrence of this weird eye irritation that I would get, last year, where like my eyes felt just really irritated for no apparent reason. And that also seemed to kind of come with my cycles. But the big thing was the headache, and this persistent headache that I'm on day 5 or 6 of dealing with this now. It does seem to be slowly improving, but it's not completely gone. So my big concern, as many of you know, I have this very weird light sensitivity, and it's difficult to tell whether it's my light sensitivity that's acting up and that's causing the headaches, or if I have a headache, which can also make me more sensitive to light. It's almost like something that feeds into itself. So obviously using my phone has been more painful, so I've kind of had to stop using it as much. I had actually gotten to a point where I was using it a lot and I was doing well. It wasn't hurting me the way that it had been in the past. So either my light sensitivity had improved, or I just, the phone was just, I don't know, I was adapting to it or something. But now that with this headache thing, I'm noticing that I can't really use my phone too much, because then it starts to make the headache worse. So it could be that my light sensitivity is getting worse. It could also be that my histamine issues are acting up. And the skin sensitivity, the fact that the doctor suspected a sinus issue, and then my hormones, which seem to irritate my histamine issues, all of those things together tell me that it might be a histamine flare-up. And I know that I had talked to you guys about a vlog or a blog that I had been reading of this girl that did exosomes. I believe it's called February Stars, if you want to go Google it and check it out. She also said that she started having a recurrence of histamine problems and some of her other symptoms post exosomes. So I don't know if it's that. Like I said, the headache, the persistent headache, is unusual. That is not something that I've had in the past. My light sensitivity can trigger a lot of pain that can last several days, but that hasn't happened in years. I don't expose myself to light long enough for that to happen. And my light sensitivity seems to have gotten to like a comfortable place where I can use my phone and not be in too much pain. Obviously, I'm not going to go into a store and just go shopping under fluorescent lights for hours or anything like that. But this seemed to have occurred unprovoked, which is the kind of weird thing. The only thing that could have provoked it was hormones, which again, a 5-day headache is not common in that case. So I thought it was something that was worth mentioning, because it's very unusual for me. It's been very uncomfortable. Right now I feel kind of out of it, sort of, I want to say foggy or just in the clouds. I did do another infusion. My IVIG infusion was yesterday. Excuse me. I did another 10 grams of IVIG. Typically, when I do my IVIG, the next day I feel pretty good. I feel full of energy. I feel just, that's usually the day that I feel the best. And then as the week goes on, I start kind of feeling more tired because obviously the IVIG kind of wears out during the week. These last two infusions, I haven't felt great the next day after. And last week I can understand that because I started my monthly cycle. This week I don't really know what's going on. It's just weird that I'm feeling gross post IVIG infusion. So the only thing that I can sort of chalk it up to is the exosomes. Either they're causing some kind of other issue. I'm not noticing any improvement in symptoms at this point. Again, it's 3 weeks post exosomes. I don't think I'm supposed to be noticing anything. But I am just noticing that I'm feeling just off, which again could be the lack of IVIG, but I did do 20 grams within the span of like 7 days. So I don't know. I feel like there's just so much stuff in my system right now. There's just so much going on that it's kicking up a lot of dust and it's just making me feel weird. The headache does appear to be tapering off. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I will go back to my baseline eventually. But right now I'm like at the very end of my cycle and it's like I should be feeling okay. I shouldn't be feeling this weird. But I thought that this would be good to talk about for anybody out there, any woman that is considering doing these types of treatments, because I was fully expecting that it would mess with my cycle. I would not have been surprised at all if it messed with it. If I became irregular, because that's usually what happens to me whenever I have an infection or whenever anything kind of is different with my body. And that didn't happen at all. My cramps, I would say, were a little bit worse, but nothing too extreme. I was still able to manage them. And that is probably one of my biggest issues when it comes to my monthly cycles. Acne, again, not super unusual. The skin sensitivity, the headache, the sort of, what I feel may be histamine related definitely seems to be kind of worsening, or it's just acting up because of, whatever is going on. I can't 100% say it's the exosomes, but that's the only difference. That and having stopped my IVIG, but like I said, I'm back on IVIG. Obviously, it may take a few weeks to sort of get back to my baseline, but this headache, the IVIG I feel should have helped and should have sort of prevented it maybe, or kept me from feeling so bad, and it really didn't. One of the other things that I do want to mention is that I did have quite a bit of dark chocolate within, in that week, like leading up to my cycle and during that week. And it was a dark chocolate that I don't usually eat. Dark chocolate is very, very high in histamine. If you didn't know, it is very high in histamine. And it does seem to sort of provoke like a little bit of a headache when I eat it sometimes. So that could have triggered this flare up. Still, to have a headache for 5 days, and it's still very unusual, regardless of whether I'm eating chocolate or that kind of thing. Like I said, it could be that I'm becoming extra sensitive to histamines and having a flare up of that, and that could be the problem. And again, that's being triggered by something else. And my hormones typically do kick up the histamine issues somewhat. but this was something, I mean, totally unusual. This was different, having the 5 day, 6 day headache. I don't know, we're on like day 6, I think, at this point, is really unsettling. But I figured it would be a good thing to talk about for anybody out there that also has similar symptoms to me, light sensitivity, or if you are prone to headaches, or if you have histamine issues. It would be a good thing to consider prior to doing, these types of therapies. Because as I mentioned before, the doctors are not going to tell you. They are not going to say, you're going to feel worse. They're not going to tell you that you're going to feel sick. They're going to tell you you're not going to feel a thing. You're just going to suddenly, after a few months, feel amazing. And I don't think that's the case. But I will keep you guys posted if there's anything else like this, because I do feel that it is, as patients and people that are paying for these treatments, it is our right to know what is going to be happening to us, the good and the bad. Not just, for people to tell you you're not going to feel anything, you're not going to have any side effects. Side effects are rare. They may not be side effects of the treatment. It's the body responding. And when you're sick, your body is not in great shape. It's going to respond in very, very bizarre ways. So, I feel like it's sort of my duty to talk about these things and to let people know that you might be feeling like absolute garbage. You might develop new symptoms. It's going to be, it's probably not going to be that fun, if you weren't doing well to begin with. And obviously, a lot of these clinics, stem cell clinics, places that do these treatments, they're not going to tell you that you're going to feel bad because they are trying to sell you a treatment. They're making thousands and thousands of dollars off of these treatments. If they tell you, hey, you're going to be sick for a few months, chances are you may just say, you know what, I can't do that. I can't be out of commission for a couple of months. So I think as patients that are doing these treatments, whether we get better or not, it is sort of, I feel like it's only fair to us, to the consumer, to the person paying for the treatment and the person suffering through it, that we know what we're in for. Because like I said, these doctors and these clinics, and I'm not saying that they're crooked, they may just, they just don't know. Even if they've done stem cells themselves, if they've put them in their own bodies, their bodies are healthy. Their bodies don't have any major issues where these things could possibly happen. So they may just be completely ignorant of the possibilities. And I think it's helpful for other people who are sick to talk about their experience. Even something that may seem benign, like a headache that doesn't go away, but that has, that's not being really caused by anything. For those of us that, for example, people that have kids or people that still work, and you're thinking of doing this treatment, this may be helpful in order for you to properly prepare for what comes after, which, like I said, the doctors are not going to tell you. So give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. If you have done this treatment, leave any comments down below of anything that happened to you after doing exosomes or stem cells. That way we can sort of share information, because this is, like I said, this is a new experience for me and for a lot of other people, and there's not a lot of information out there about it. So let's try to help each other out, and I will see you again in the next one. Take care.